Hello, good morning friends. Welcome back to your favorite channel Code One Digest. Today in this video, we are going to learn how can you set up AWS EC2 instance. How can we create EC2 instance? How can we configure it? And then we will run a microservice in AWS EC2 instance and we'll test it. So I'll teach you step by step from scratch how can you create EC2 instance, then how can you deploy your microservices into EC2 instance, and then how can you test it. So stay with me till end of this video. It is going to be very exciting and interesting video for a beginner. I'm sure many of us wants to learn AWS, cloud computing and storage. So I'm going to cover everything in this video. Just stay with me. Friends, so here is the agenda for today. In this video, we'll be creating and set up the AWS EC2 instance from zero. I'll teach you step by step how can you create it. Then connecting to that instance from our local putty client. From a local terminal, how can you connect to that EC2 instance so that you can work on it. Then we will create an S3 bucket. Why do we need S3 bucket? We'll understand that. And then we will create Hello World microservice project. We'll compile it, build it, and then we'll upload it to S3 bucket. We'll deploy and run that microservices into EC2 instance, and then we'll test that microservice running into EC2 instance. Right? Clear? So this is what we are going to do in this video. It is going to be very interesting and exciting. I'm sure there are a lot to learn in this video, so stay with me. Friends, before we proceed in this video, I want you to subscribe my channel to grow Code One Digest family. Friends, I'm creating a lot of quality contents for you, but I'm not getting subscribers. I want you to like, share and subscribe my channel so that I can grow Code One Digest family. Thank you.
All right, let's get started.
So friend, let's understand the architecture, what we are trying to achieve in this video today. If you see this blue area is our AWS cloud, and in that AWS cloud we are using S3 bucket and EC2 VM service. So we'll create one EC2 VM instance and we'll also create one S3 bucket. Why do we need S3 bucket? Because whatever jar we will create, our microservice application jar will create, we have to upload that to S3 bucket, and then from S3 bucket we will copy it to our EC2 instance. Once it is available, the jar is transferred to EC2 instance, we'll run it, we'll start that application with the configuration file, and then finally once the application is up and running, once the microservice is up and running, then we'll test it from outside. From our local machine, we'll hit that API and see if we are getting a desired response. So this is a very simple architecture diagram so that you understand the flow, how and what we are doing in this video, right? Okay, friends. So S3 is a very common service where Amazon allowed us to upload media files like images or video files or jar files. So whatever files you want to upload, the big size of files, you can upload it to S3 from your local system. You can access it from your local system, and through a network you can upload all those files into a bucket, and then it will be accessible on internet on S3. Once the file is available on S3, then it will be accessible from anywhere on internet. But you can decide on your security settings that you want to make it public or you want to keep it private within yourself, within your subnet or within your network. So after uploading, while creating S3 bucket, you have to decide this bucket is going to be public bucket or it is going to be private bucket. And then when you upload the file to that bucket, it will be accessible accordingly. So this is a very simple architecture of S3 bucket. We upload the file and then we access it. In our setup, in our scenario, we will also upload our jar file to S3 bucket and then we'll transfer it from S3 bucket to our EC2 instance and then we'll start our application. Okay friends, now let me show you a microservice project that I have created. It's a very simple microservice application where I am having a simple API to print a hello world. Okay, let me start with the pom.xml. It's a Maven project, so I have a pom.xml. In this pom.xml, I have defined the Java version that I'm using and what version of Spring Boot I'm using. So those Spring dependencies are there, but nothing fancy in this pom.xml. Only Spring dependencies are there. Then in this project, I have my main class. This is my main Spring Boot class where I have a Spring Boot application, a notation which says this is a Spring Boot application, and then I have a controller package where I have a hello controller. So it is a REST controller and it is going to support RESTful APIs that we create. I have created a hello controller and I have one get endpoint that is hello name. And then in this method, in this get call, I am reading the name from a path and just printing that name with a hello string, right? So very simple microservice. I'm going to hit it and then we'll upload this application to our cloud EC2 instance and then we'll test there as well. Let us build this application first and then let's create a jar file out of it. We'll just say clean and install these two jobs and we'll create a fresh jar here for this application. Meanwhile, it is building this jar. Let me show you the configuration that I have. I have these two properties file, two configuration file. So in my local, I'm using application.properties. But when we deploy, in EC2, I'll be using this prod properties, and it doesn't have anything. It's just having a port that on which particular port my microservices will run. So this properties file will also be packed into this jar file. We'll be accessing this properties file using a profile, prod profile. If you see the application hyphen prod, hyphen means a profile name. So I have mentioned that application hyphen prod. That means I'll be running my application with a profile prod. Fine, friends. So the jar is compiled and it is packed. Jar is created. I can see that this jar is created. Now what I'll do is I'll create EC2 instance and S3 bucket and upload this jar and then we'll try to run this application from there. Okay, friends. So now what we'll do is let us open AWS console and try to set up our EC2 instance. So in Google search for AWS EC AWS console login. Yeah. So it will take you to AWS management console. You have to log in. If you don't have an account, you can create a free account. It is free to create. I have already created an account. That is why I am logged in with that account. Now here we are going to create an EC2 instance. So in a search box, type EC2. You can see that EC2 service is listed here. Click on that EC2. You will be taken to a EC2 dashboard, right? Then on your left hand side, you have to create on instances. You see here on left hand side, this instances. As of now, I'm not running any instances, hence it is not listed here, right? So we have to launch an instance. Click on this right top corner yellow button, launch instances, right? Now you will land on this page where you will be setting up your EC2 VM instance. You have to provide certain details here like name of your server and the detail and configuration and so on. So we'll do that. Okay. So let me provide details to create this EC2 instance. So I'm going to give code one digest EC2 instance demo, right? So this is the name I'm giving. Then I'm taking this Amazon Linux default operating system. This is the server I'm going to take and Instance type, I am taking T2 micro. You can select other instances as well, but I think for this demo, this T2 micro is more than enough. I don't want hi-fi configuration. One CPU and 1 gigabit of memory is more than enough. Now here we have to create a key value pair so that you can securely connect to this instance from your local terminal, from your local putty. So if you don't have, I don't have a key value pair, so we can create a new key value pair. This is easy to create. I can say code one digest key value. I will take it as a RSA and I will download it as a PPK file because I am going to use it in putty. Okay, let me create this. Yeah, so that PPK file is downloaded. We have to keep that PPK file safe and secure. Later, we will use this PPK file to log in into our EC2 instance. Once we launch the EC2 instance, then from putty using this PPK file, we'll be connecting to it. Okay, I'll show you that. Fine. So that key value pair is selected here. Now let's create a network settings for our EC2 instance. Click on edit to update network settings. Here we will be creating a firewall rule that will important to run our application. So if you see here, we have a default virtual private network, and then I'm not using any subnet, let it be default, and it's saying auto assign public IP enabled. It is creating a security group for me with this name launch wizard 1 and so on. Now here you see there's a couple of security group rules are defined, which is allowing that SSH TCP on 22 port. This is used to connect the putty connection. Then source type anywhere. What we are going to do is now we are going to add a new security rule with our custom TCP. Okay, we'll say TCP from anywhere and we'll say 8080. Okay, so source type we have selected anywhere and then we said 8080. 8080. Once this is done, storage, let it be with the default configuration of one pack of 8 GB, right? With GP2 root volume, and in advanced detail, we don't have to change anything. Let it be default configuration as is, and just click on launch button on your right bottom corner. Yeah, it will take a couple of minutes to launch your instance. Yeah, it says the instance is launched successfully. Now, what we want to do is we want to connect to this instance. So click on this connect to your instance. It will open a new window and it will guide you how can we connect to this instance. We want to connect to that instance using SSH client. So we'll follow this instruction. Now I'll show you how can we connect to this instance from our local. Let's see that. Okay friends, now what we'll do is we'll connect this EC2 instance with our putty from our local. So let me open the SSH client, that is putty I'm using, and then we'll follow the instruction given here. So this is the host name of that server, so that I have to use here in the session, okay, as a host name that I have given. Then go to connections in SSH, go to auth, and then here select that PPK file that we have downloaded while creating the secret key pairs. So I'll just load that. This is my PPK file. Open that and click on open. Right. So here it will ask for a username. So if you see in this command, the user is EC2 user. So this username we have to use and give it here. Yeah. And say enter. Here you go. So you are now into that server. You have logged in into that server. ULS pwd Yeah, and just change it to a root user. Sudo su hyphen root. Yeah, so now we will do a setup as a root and we'll create cd slash, let me create and a directory application mkdir apple. Okay, so that application directory cd appl, so everything will run here, we will keep everything here in this directory. So I'll show you now that how can you transfer the jar file onto this EC2 box and then run it. We'll see that now after this. Now, so what we'll do is we'll create a S3 bucket so that we can upload our jar file to it. So search S3 service here, select S3, and then it will take you to the S3 management console. So here if you see, there is an option to create a bucket, but I have already created a bucket. I will use that, but I'll show you how can you create a bucket. Click on the create bucket, give some name, my bucket demo. You can select a region where you want to. So we can say disable ACL, and then we will disable blocking of all public access. So we'll allow all public access to it, but you can select appropriate security option here that which particular IP you want to give access, or you can give restricted access by selecting this point. Block public access accordingly. Then we don't want any versioning of this bucket, so disable it. And tag, if you want to create a tag, you can create tag. Encryption, select the default one. And what is there in advance? We don't want to change anything, just say create bucket, so it will create a bucket for you. The same way I have created a bucket already and I'm using this bucket. So let me go to that bucket, but it doesn't have any object. So once you go to the bucket, inside the bucket you will have option to upload a file. Let me upload my jar file now. So where is my jar file? The jar file here in this project. I'll go to that project directory and then we'll upload the jar file from there. So inside this project I have in target, I have created a jar. I will copy this jar from this location and upload it here. So I'll say upload and add file. I'll go to that location. I'll select this jar, open, select this jar and permissions. Just check the permissions. We have disabled, choose from predefined ACL, specific predefined ACL, grant public read access. So you have to select the public read access so that we can access it from our EC2 instance. I understand the risk and there are certain properties that you can let it be with the default setting and say upload. So it will take a couple of minutes to upload that file. We got some 30 to 40 MB file. It's uploading it. Upload is done. You can go to that file and copy a URL. So let me open this file. We'll copy this jar URL to access that. Now what I'll do is I'll go to my terminal where I've logged in into EC2 instance and we do wget command and provide that jar location. Yeah, so it has transferred that jar file. If I can see, yeah, so jar file is available. Now what I'll do is I'll run the microservice application. I'll start microservice application using a Java command and then we'll test it. Okay, friend. So now before starting our application, we have to install Java because Java is also not there. What we get from AWS EC2 instance is just an empty operating system. So all required software we have to install. So what we need to run this jar file is a Java. So I have a command, yum command, yum install java 1.8.0. I'll use this and you can run it as a root, or you can use sudo, so that it will now download the Java and install it. Just say yes, it's downloading. It will take a couple of minutes to download and install Java. Yes, so it is done. You can say Java minus version. Yes, so it's showing up. Now what we'll do is we'll now run this jar file. We'll start our microservices. For that, we have to prepare a command so that we can select appropriate profile to run our application with. If you remember in the starting, I said we will running this with prod profile. In our application, we have two properties file, application.properties and application prod.properties. So here prod is nothing but it's a profile name. So I have prepared a command where I'm giving Java manager and this option where I can say what is my profile name. So spring.profiles.active is an option that I have to use, and I have to provide a name of my profile, that is prod, and the jar name. So copy this command and I'm pasting it here. Yeah, and then say enter. So it is starting my application now. Let's see if it starts. Yeah, so it says it started. Now what we'll do is we'll try to hit this API and see if we are getting a response. Okay, so now what we'll do is let me prepare a URL to access that microservices. Okay, if you remember from local, we had accesses localhost colon 8080 slash hello slash name. So in the same way, I have prepared a HTTP URL. This is my EC2 instance host name that I have taken it from here. So this is the host name that I have taken in the command, and I have appended 8080 because we have exposed 8080. If you remember, we have created a firewall rule where we have exposed the 8080 port, and in our properties file we have mentioned that we are running our application on 8080. So this is a port, and then this is a endpoint where we have hello, and then this is a path parameter pavan. Let me copy this and we'll put that in a browser and hit it. Yes, so we are getting response. It looks like it's working fine. Let's see the log. Yes, so here the request has reached to a dispatcher servlet. It's the first servlet in a Spring Boot, and then it has reached, based on the endpoint, it has reached the request to our controller, that is hello controller, and then it is replying back accordingly, right? So friends, now our end-to-end setup of our microservices in EC2 is done. That means it is accessible, it is reachable. We are able to test it from local. You can access this endpoint, this API from anywhere in the world. It is working absolutely fine. So I hope you understood how can you create EC2 instance, how easy to create the EC2 instance and use it, run your application into it, right? Okay. Okay, friends. So now let me quickly summarize what we have learned in this video. So we created and set up the AWS EC2 instance, right? I shown you step by step how can you create EC2 instance. Then we connected EC2 instance from our local putty using PPK key value pair, right? Then we created S3 bucket where we uploaded the jar file from for our microservice application. Then we created microservice application jar, right? And then we uploaded that jar to S3 bucket. And then we installed the Java and ran our microservice application into EC2 instance. And then finally, we tested the microservice application successfully and able to get response from it, right? Friends, if you like this video, so give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for the more interesting videos. Click on the bell icon for the latest video notifications, and do not forget to share this video with all your friends and colleagues. This is very useful information for students, beginners, and software engineers. I am putting a lot of efforts in creating these contents, so please help me growing the Code One Digest family. Please subscribe to Code One Digest channel for the latest programming and technology related videos. Thank you.